Indeed. Indeed, you do. And the moment you sponsor a job on Indeed, you get a short list of quality candidates from our resume database. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get a $75 credit for your first sponsored job post. Terms and conditions apply.
Add a little excitement to your sports watching experience by betting all the action on FanDuel Sportsbook. There's a reason why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, where you get unique, fun bet types like same-game parlays so you can get a massive payout on a small bet. And don't forget exclusive promotions such as enhanced odds boosts. Right now, FanDuel is letting you place your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Just place a bet on any game and FanDuel will refund you up to $1,000 back if you don't win your first bet. There's no strings attached. Just place any bet you want. If you win, you keep the cash. If you lose, you'll get your entire bet up to $1,000 back in site credit. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app and get started. And use my promo code Hennig when you sign up to get your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. That's promo code Hennig on FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older and present in NJ or PA. First online real money wager only. Site credit is non-withdrawable and expires in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See sportsbook.fanduel.com for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The radio home of the 76ers.
For three, with good, up and go!
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City. This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Now, Sports Bash Saturday. Here's Josh Hennig.
Another edition of Sports Bash Saturday. It is a power hour again here on 97.3 ESPN. I am Josh Hennig here in the Matt Blatt Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN. Big Ten semifinal. It is one of the biggest rivalries in college sports. Michigan versus Ohio State at 1 p.m. right here on 97.3 ESPN. I'm excited for that game. So should you. March Madness has been absolutely wild. I mean, look at what's going on at Boardwalk Hall. The MAC is over there at Boardwalk Hall, and they have a Cinderella of their own, Fairfield. They're over there in the final. So it's a great weekend for college basketball. We got to talk some Eagles. We got to talk some Sixers. We got to talk some Flyers. Kevin Durso is going to join us in about 20 minutes from now to get more into the Fly guys and the NHL coming back too. See if I can get my hands right. There, ESPN. You know what? I'm just going to lift the shirt like that. If you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, because it's on reverse, everything's opposite on the camera. So it's a bad job by me for not remembering that. But obviously, the big news for the Sixers came out today that Joel Embiid does not have any torn ligaments, nothing structural damage-wise in his knee. Huge news for the team. I think that it can't be overlooked enough that when Embiid went down last night, all of us were looking like, oh, man, here we go again. Another Embiid potential problem. The good news is it's a bone bruise. Now, remember, if you go back in your memory banks, he did have a similar issue a couple of years ago with a bone bruise, but it turned out to be he came back too soon from it, and then he had to have meniscus surgery. So I get the sense with Daryl Morey and Elton Brand, they might be a little bit more careful, a little bit more prudent in taking care of Embiid and his body than maybe under the Colangelo regime. But that's just my assumption, just based on information that we know about what happened then and what happened now. So obviously Embiid, he's going to miss at least 2 weeks. He's going to miss probably about 8 games. I'm going to assume it's about 8 games. One of those deals where if he misses more, you'd rather be safe than sorry. The one thing this does is it probably kills his MVP candidacy because the Sixers are probably going to find a way to win without him, because you look at their schedule, it's not completely unmanageable, right? I mean, they just won 2 games without Ben Simmons and without Embiid for a game and a half, basically. Look what they got. They got the Spurs tomorrow night, the Knicks, the Bucks, the Kings, the Knicks again, and the Warriors. That's your next 6 games. Beyond that, after the Warriors, it gets tough. Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets. So if you can get Embiid back for those games, that'd be great. If not, at least if you can survive and win 4 of the next 6 games, I think you will be okay no matter what happens with the Lakers, Clippers, and Nuggets games. Again, Sixers back in action tomorrow night. Hear all the action right here on 97.3 ESPN at 6:30 because the fans are back in the building. How about over 3,000 fans are going to be back in the building? I mean, that's wild. As I mentioned, 609-403-0973 is the text board. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Watching on YouTube, we got Josh Stewart says, "What's up, Josh? How about them Sixers? I'm glad Embiid is okay with the bone bruise." Hey, listen, man. One thing about the Sixers, they're playing their tail off. How about the Matisse Thybulle in the starting lineup? 2 straight games having an impact defensively. You got to love that. Listen, I'm a big guy on defense. I think Thybulle out there has been impactful tremendously for this team the last 2 nights. I would love to see them just keep Thybulle in the starting lineup. You know, and I don't know who the guy would come off the benches per se when Simmons comes back, because we're going to assume that the starting lineup is going to have either Bradley or Howard in at center. Tobias is going to stay at the 4. And then Simmons is going to be in the lineup when he returns tomorrow night. So I would keep Thybulle in there. Who the other guy is, I mean, should it be Curry? Should it be Green? I would lean personally to keeping Curry in the starting lineup and then have Danny Green come off the bench as kind of like a defensive stopper, kind of like what, not on the same level, but remember Tony Allen with the Celtics? Doc Rivers coached that team. Allen would come off the bench whenever Pierce or Allen would go to the bench, Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and then Tony Allen would come into the game and play some defense. The difference is Danny Green can actually shoot from the outside, and Tony Allen was, you got a little nervous whenever he had the ball in his head offensively. But that's personally what I would do. But you're right. It's fun to watch this team. The Sixers are very, very fortunate that it's only a bone bruise, and that's a huge deal for this team. Another message here on YouTube. I'm going to assume this name is Leasy. Sure. Leasy with a bunch of capitals randomly in there. You can see it on the stream there. But he says, I wonder how the injury will affect the trade deadline. I don't think it affects the trade deadline in terms of positional need, but it might affect the trade deadline in terms of maybe moving up the timeline of who you're going to get. This might push the Sixers into making a move sooner than later. I think that's maybe how it affects the trade deadline. I think it's one of those deals where for the 76ers, they are a team that they need things. Listen, they need some more scoring on the wing. They genuinely need some things with this basketball team. And I think that, again, I'm not sure if they're going to get Kyle Lowry per se. I'm not sure who exactly they're going to get, but I do like some of the names out there. I think that the concept of a guy like Will Barton, Larry Nance Jr., those are guys who could be great supporting guys on a winning basketball team. I'm not sure if the Kyle Lowry thing is going to work just because of the fact that I'm still not convinced you can make a 1-for-1 deal. To me, that's a deal that you got to make. That's got to be 3-4 teams involved, because for the Sixers to make a 1-on-1 deal, the money is going to be ridiculous. And to me, if the Sixers are serious about, reforming this roster a little bit, you get a 3rd or 4th team involved. Then what you do is you call the Cavs and you say, we went Larry Nance Jr., but we're getting the Raptors involved. So now you're using the Cavs to get the Raptors some of the assets that they wanted all along. So I think that's how the deal gets done. But we know Daryl Morey, he's creative. He finds ways to get stuff done. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of the ways he gets it done. Also in the news, this story about the Eagles and Howie Roseman and the organization and all this stuff. First of all, the story is exhausting to read. Not exhausting in terms of like it's bad, but exhausting in terms of as you're reading through this piece in the Philadelphia Inquirer by Jeff McClain, you kind of walk away from it feeling like you're tired. Like, wow, I just probably read about 10,000 words in an article. I mean, yikes. Again, it's very, very thorough. It's very exhaustive. and exhausting. It's both. But here's the thing. I walk away from this article with everything that's said, and I'm more than ever looking at the owner and blaming him for things. The article in no way is a hit piece. I know some people are trying to constitute it that way. I think the article tries to go out of its way to be very fair and to be very even-handed. But as I asked on the Locker Room with Billy Schweim a little bit earlier, about an hour and a half ago, I asked the question then, and I'll ask the question now. And I'll ask all of you out there watching the show on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. I'll ask you guys listening on 973 ESPN FM, the 973 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea City. Okay, so you had all these sources. You spent months doing this reporting. How sure are we that all the sources are not just people with an agenda? See, that's part of the problem with a lot of this stuff. When you look at media reporting, and when it's an article like this, and we had the same questions about the Joe Selaquito article years ago. It's the reason why every time Josina Anderson would make a report that we all said, oh, did Alshon Jeffrey say that? Because you have to question who is the source behind the information. A lot of people like to say, where there's smoke, there's fire. I like to ask the question, who started the fire? Who gave them the tools to start the fire? And why didn't anybody stop them from starting the fire? Those are just as important as where there's smoke, there's fire. Because in our business, if we get something wrong, it's not just going to be our credibility on the line. It's going to be how people look at us is on the line. How people treat us, how people do everything around us and toward us and with us. If you can't trust the people who are giving you information, then that person who's putting the information out there is hard for them to trust them. So I'm asking the question, the sources of these articles, was it, for example, people who were disgruntled? Was it people who were fired? Who are the people who put out this information? I think that is extremely important question to ask because, again, it's not a hit piece, but there are definitely specific and very poignant points and stories in this article about Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, Doug Peterson, about how about the part that Doug Peterson was aloof at times and Howie Roseman felt he had to fill the void of Doug at times in and around the building. And that was part of the reason why Howie Roseman was so much around the players in the locker room. I mean, that in and of itself is a very interesting picture to paint because you go back to the 5 years of watching Doug Peterson do press conferences, and then you hear that. That's interesting. The article says that morale was low across the board last year. Well, I hope it would be. It was arguably the worst Eagles season in about 10 years. Okay. I mean, come on. Like some of the things they say in there, it's kind of like, thanks, Captain Obvious. But on the flip side, on a more serious note, it does paint a very interesting perspective of how the Eagles organization is run. And again, it's more conversation about how Jeffrey Lurie, he doesn't really let everyone do their job. He really only listens to Howie Roseman. He's an individual who wants to have an influence and a say in things when it comes to the draft and when it comes to the coaching staff. There's the one part in the story where Jeffrey Lurie was not happy after the Packers game because they ran the ball too much. They won, but the owner wasn't happy. Stuff like that is just very strange to me. It's very strange of how tone deaf someone can be. It's very strange to me, some of the information in this article. And again, I want to put it out there. I don't think this is the hit piece. I don't think this is a one-sided article, but I do think it brings up some very important questions about, for example, Jeffrey Lurie's involvement in this organization. It does bring up some very important questions about how much is the owner involved in some of this stuff. And I don't think that's something we can overlook. I think this article paints a very clear picture that the owner is more involved than anybody ever realized, that anybody was willing to admit for a while. And there's only a handful of Eagles reporters who ever pointed to it. And again, I ask all the Howie Roseman haters out there about the Eagles. You hate Howie. He's not a football guy. Blah, blah, blah. Where's all the hate for the owner? I mean, the owner literally was unhappy after a win because they ran the ball too much in his mind. Makes you wonder, how many times was the offensive complaints we had about Doug Peterson and the complaints we had about Howie Roseman, how much of that was really the owner? I think some important questions that we still don't have answers to, but a little more clarity to the situations around this team come out in that article in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Josh Hennig here on Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN. We'll talk some Flyers coming up with Kevin Durso, our Flyers Insider. Sports Bash Saturday being brought to you by East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows, serving all of South Jersey. If you call, they'll show up. Visit them online at eastcoastroofing.com. Plus, I'll be giving you my FanDuel Sportsbook picks for the weekend as well, coming up in about 30 minutes from now. And, of course, we'll take your thoughts and comments, 609-403-0973. And if you're watching live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, we'll get your comments as well. We're only here till 1 o'clock. So if you got a thought, you want to get something in, you better get it in the next 40 minutes. Josh Hennig here, live the Matt Black Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. And, of course, 97.3 ESPN.com for all your Sixers, Flyers, Eagles, Phillies, and high school sports coverage as well. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just follow 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers basketball tomorrow on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the 76ers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Simmons downhill, ups it, jabs it, yeah, and a foul, a rocket basket by Ben Simmons.
The Sixers host the San Antonio Spurs.
Tomorrow, coverage begins at 6:30. Philadelphia 76ers basketball on your radio home of the Sixers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN.
If you're very quiet, you can hear it. The joy, the freedom, the crunch from 100% whole grain oats. Stay outside longer with Nature Valley Oats and Honey Crunchy Granola Bars. We are better outside.
Get the credit you deserve during Matt Blatt Kia's Madness in March sales event with 0 down and 0% APR financing for 75 months. Get to Matt Blatt Kia in Toms River and Egg Harbor Township, because at Matt Blatt Kia, we want to get you approved today. And you can't make a mistake with our 4-day love it or leave it return policy. Plus, we want your trade, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth. So get out of that old car you hate. Come in today or visit us online and get the credit you deserve. Put 0 down and get 0% APR financing available for up to 75 months on every new 2021 Kia Sportage, or take $2,500 off MSRP, because
it's gotta be a Matt Black Kia.
Offers with approved Tier 1 or 2 credit through Kia Motors Finance. Not all will qualify. 0% based on $1,333 per 1,000 borrowed. All Kia Motors factory rebates to dealer. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. Expires 4/5/2021. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and now on Route 37 in Toms River.
Recently, Total Wireless helped Charlie Michelle stage a virtual dance recital for her friends and family.
This event was super meaningful to them.
Because when you move to Total Wireless, you can get amazing devices on nationwide 5G. And with unlimited plans starting at $25 a month, you could save up to $1,200 a year.
Thank you, Total Wireless, for helping me pull this off.
Total Wireless. Do amazing. Compatible 5G device required. 5G network in limited areas. Month equals 30 days. Savings claim made when compared to 4-line postpaid plans of leading carriers 10-20-20. See terms and conditions at TotalWireless.com.
If you're an athlete or live an active lifestyle, aches and pains can be part of the game. That's where Trifecta Therapeutics comes into play. Trifecta Therapeutics is a premier sports rehabilitation physical therapy center located centrally for anyone in South Jersey, right in Glassboro. Their team of the highest skilled docs takes a unique approach to physical therapy and rehab. Whether you're a weekend warrior or a finely tuned athlete, They treat the pros and the Joes. To find out more about Trifecta Therapeutics and how they can help you, check out trifectatherapeutics.com.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover. All for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter 5510 at checkout. That's harrys.com, code 5510. Enjoy.
Hey, bro. I don't think I can help you move Saturday. My back is really bugging me. I just don't think I can handle it. Sorry.
Hey, dude, it's John. I know I told you I'd be able to help you move. I think Michelle's really mad at me for something. What's that, honey? Oh, dude, I gotta go. Sorry, man.
Call Clark's Moving and Storage in South Jersey for your next local or long-distance move. Clark's, dependable and always shows up. Call 609-889-0780.
Want professional tax prep at a great value? Jackson Hewitt has an offer you won't want to miss. For a limited time, we'll prepare your federal taxes for as little as $48 and no more than $179. That's right. Get federal taxes done for you by skilled Jackson Hewitt tax pros in Walmart for as little as $48 and no more than $179. This offer won't last. Terms apply. Stop by Jackson Hewitt in Walmart and get your coupon code and details. That's Jackson Hewitt, conveniently located in Walmart.
Home is where the heart is. And with a $169 million Powerball jackpot win, home could look a lot different than it does now. With all those millions, a Cape May mansion could be yours. So take a chance on Powerball. Anything can happen in Jersey.
This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on Sports Bash Saturday Power Hour edition, being brought to you by Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning, your local provider who makes it easy to upgrade your home to the most energy-efficient equipment on the market. Plus, learn how to get a free furnace during the month of March only. Visit them online at broadleafs.net. We'll get more of the Sixers and Eagles talk in just a bit here, but right now we got to get over to the ice because Flyers are back in action tonight. You hear all the action here on 97.3 ESPN. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. tonight. And joining us right now on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline, it's Kevin Durso to get more into the Flyers. He is also the co-host of the Open Hits podcast as well. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing better than I think the Flyers defense at this point. I think that we can all agree on that. Listen, that game last night, everyone got the screenshots online. Guys just wide open, getting to the net. And it just seems like I just don't know what to do, Kevin. At some point, it's like unless Sean Couturier is on the ice, this team just doesn't know what to do at times. It's like they don't know where to be, how to be, what they're doing at times. And I know that Alain Vigneault supposedly is calling for a hard practice tomorrow, whatever that means. But Kevin, I got to know, when is this going to be fixed? Is this going to be fixed?
Well, I'll start with this because the preview is not out for tonight's game yet. I'm in the process of finishing it up, but I swear you're looking into it before you can read it because I wrote the same thing as Sean Couturier as my player to watch. It seems like when he's on the ice, good things are happening, whether it's sustained offensive zone pressure, they draw a penalty, maybe they do score a goal out of that, but it seems like when he's on the ice, something good is happening. And even he's been burned in the last few games just in terms of being on the ice for a goal against because something goes wrong elsewhere. Joel Farabee has missed coverages, things like that. So it's happened with every line on the ice. I don't know if this problem is fixable with the current group, to be honest, because, you know, we've watched this for 24 games. Tonight's the 25th, and it's not getting any better, and they're closer and closer to fully healthy. They're sitting down different guys throughout the defensive core at this point. You know, pretty much just about everybody has sat out a game except for Ivan Provorov at this point. I mean, Provorov's, I think, the only defenseman on the team who's played in every single game. Travis Sanheim missed a game because of being on the COVID list. Justin Braun missed time being on the COVID list. They've actually probably been the pairing that, for the most part, has been better than the others, I'll say. And that doesn't mean it's a high bar. It's a very low bar that's being set. But at the very least, they're the two that I would say I see the least amount of blown coverages on. And even the other night, Sanheim got walked around by Nick Dowd before scoring a goal. It went in off of a skate, so that's not the reason that the goal was scored per se, but it allows them to get the positioning. I've seen it with just about every pairing. I mean, I can say every single defenseman on this team has had a bad game this year, bare minimum, at least one, maybe, probably several at this point. So I don't know if it's fixable. They've got to start exploring the options from the outside at this point, and they've got to either explore the options. It's going to be hard to make a deal. It doesn't mean it's going to happen anytime soon. There's still a month until the trade deadline, and it doesn't mean help's coming, but you got to start to go that direction if you think you have a legitimate shot, because otherwise you might just fizzle out and be done with before you even get into the heart of the playoff race. And that's a really scary thought for a team that everybody seemed to think was going to take that next step or be able to at least get back to where they were and get closer to that step. It's obvious they haven't recovered from Matt Niskanen retiring, but that being said, Niskanen's one player, and this does not affect the entire defensive core because one player decided he was done playing. It doesn't make sense. Something's wrong with this picture, and they have to find a way to rectify it very quickly.
Is there a legitimate trade out there, you think, for the Flyers? What is their financial situation? What are the restrictions or possibilities that are out there? Because I know anybody can run a trade on, NHL 21 right now, I think is, or 22. I forget. I lose track of what year we are actually anymore because of this pandemic stuff. But people can run a trade on a video game. But in the real world, what are the Flyers' options, Kevin?
Well, I'd say the very first one at the top of the list is a name that just keeps coming up more and more, and it's Mattias Ekholm from Nashville. His name just keeps coming up. And I'm the type to believe where there's smoke, there's fire, and I think that there's something to this. Nashville is going through a ton of problems right now. First of all, they're struggling this season. It seems like that window that was opening up for them when they made a Stanley Cup final a few years back, it seems like it's not just closed. It seems like it's slammed shut in a matter of a year or two because they've tried to move on to a different goalie. They had a younger goalie waiting in the wings behind Pecorine. That hasn't changed things. Their defensive core is just continuing to get older. At this point in time, what they have to worry about is losing guys for nothing when it comes to either expansion or free agency or things like that. They're going to start trading players if they're not going to make the playoffs because they want to get something in return. What's going to happen for the Flyers to make anything work is it's going to have to involve somebody who's on the current roster because financially it won't be able to work. So somebody who's currently on the roster is going to go somewhere, whether it's they allocate cap money to the minor leagues to fit the guy in or something else where a player is actually part of the trade. And, the usual suspects are going to keep coming up when it comes to that. It's not really among the forward group that they're not opposed to anything, I don't think, but it's Shane Gostisbehere, it's Eric Gustafsson. These are names that keep coming up, and they're guys who make a substantial enough amount of money that you can see why they're factored into it. Gustafsson's making $3 million. Gostisbehere's making $4.5 million. That's what kind of money needs to be moved for the Flyers to really have something out there. But Ekholm seems to be the guy who I keep coming back to. There's other names out there who would be fits for what the Flyers need. I think of Matt Dumba from Minnesota. I think of Savard from Columbus. But those are guys who, quite frankly, Columbus is probably still close enough in a playoff race right now that they're not thinking about trading anybody. Minnesota's in the playoff picture. They're not thinking about trading anybody at the moment. And granted, they might try to still make a move because, again, you don't want to get burned with the expansion draft and go, I'm losing a player for absolutely nothing. So that's the reason why trades could be at a high they're going to be at a premium, but it also could be a breaking point for a lot of teams because they want to know that they can get something in return, whether it's prospects, draft picks, you name it. But those are really the types of defensemen the Flyers need to be looking at if they're going to improve just from the defensive side. And realistically, this team could make improvements just about anywhere at this point, though, because they're not getting the support that they need. And one of the takeaways I had from the Thursday game against Washington was how Washington seemed to have that secondary support in every battle. There's one guy who's doing the hard work against another player, or maybe two players, and the guy who's waiting right behind him is there to provide the support needed to then take control and start the play the other way. And the Flyers aren't getting that kind of support. There's one guy trying to do the work. You'll see a Sean Couturier, for example, go in and do a lot of the work, and then the support isn't there. And maybe that's the one line that we're seeing the support from, but maybe it's Kevin Hayes who goes in, wins a battle, but there's nobody near him when he wins that battle, so it's just basically it turns into a battle lost because the puck goes to a wide open Washington player or opposition player who's ready to go and move the other way with it. So that's the problem that they're having right now. It's a work issue. It's a coverage issue. It's a hockey sense issue. It's a fundamental issue. And that's all fixable, but it's really hard to fix it with limited practice time and against teams like Washington, like the Islanders that they have on the schedule coming up, like Boston, who play really well and are on a roll at the time that you're playing them. So that's the hard part for the Flyers. That's the challenge. But they're going to have to overcome it if they want to prove that they're a playoff team as well.
Kevin Durso joining us here on the Boardwalk on the Hotline here on Sports Bash Saturday on 97.3 ESPN at Kevin_Durso on Twitter for your Flyers and NHL coverage. Now the Flyers are back in action tonight. Capitals, they're a good team, Kevin. So this is not an easy task. I do find it interesting. Brian Elliott is back in the goal tonight. How much of that is because it's the Capitals, and how much is that because Carter Hart's struggling?
I think it's a lot because Carter Hart's struggling. Alain Vigneault pretty much said as much, that they wanted to give him a couple more days. He's trying to work out of a rough patch, and they're giving him a few more days just to try to focus on himself and not be thrown into a game situation. I think the time is running out for that kind of stuff, honestly, because you're going to play the Rangers on Monday, and you have the Rangers again on Wednesday leading into a back-to-back with the Islanders, and the Islanders are on the schedule 2 more times over the course of the next couple of days after that. But you're going to hit that back-to-back midweek. If you do play Brian Elliott tonight, which they are, it's going to be really hard to come back to Elliott on Monday because by that point in time, you're starting him 3 games in a row. He's going to have played 4 times in 7 days. That's just not a good formula for him at this stage of his career. So you need to go back to Carter Hart at some point. I think Monday might be a good opportunity because of the fact that the Rangers are a team that are really struggling. You can get him against a team that hasn't had a lot going for him, has struggled to score goals, and all of that type of stuff. But at the same time, as I'm saying that, that's what I said about Buffalo on Tuesday, and Carter Hart wasn't sharp, and he didn't look good, and he looked like he had lost all of his confidence that has been built up throughout his career, and he looks like he's at the lowest point we've seen him. And he sounded that way after the game as well. So that's why he's not playing right now, because that's where he was after that game on Tuesday, and that's just not a good place for him. But he's going to have to get back in there soon because you're going to run out of time where you're playing Brian Elliott exclusively. You're going to have to put Carter Hart in. You're going to have to put him in probably on Monday, and I would say probably Wednesday, just to get to the Islander series that you're going to have 3 games in a row against them, and then maybe see where you go from there. Brian Elliott will probably play at least the first of those games if you're going to go with him against the Islanders in the back end of that back-to-back, but maybe you do get to Carter Hart again by the end of the week because of the fact that he played well in those first 2 games. So you're going to have to find a way to build his confidence in game somehow and hopefully work on these issues off the ice as much as you can, because it's really a challenge for anything. We've talked about struggles on the power play, the penalty kill, defensive coverages, trying to get people with the same line mates. Now it's the goaltending with Carter Hart. There's just not a lot of practice time available, and that's where it's really hard to try to work out these issues because you can only do so much. And Alain Vigneault said this, you can only do so much by watching film. You've got to get out there and actually work on it. And there's not a lot of time to work on it individually, so you're stuck trying to work on issues in a game, which very well could cost you a game if a guy is still struggling and still working through it, which is kind of what's going on with Carter Hart right now.
How much of also this is age? People forget how young he is, right? He's what, 22 years old, 21 years old. So at some point, are we just going to have to admit that this is a young guy who hasn't really been in the NHL that long, and he's still working through things, and he's nowhere near what he is going to be at his peak. He's probably if he's, let's say he's what, maybe 5-6 years away from peak form for a goaltender in the NHL.
Yeah, that's a great point. And he is just 22 years old. He's only in his 3rd season in the league, and it takes time to get to that level. Alain Vigneault compared this situation to the great goalies he's had in the past, and he mentioned Roberto Luongo and Henrik Lundqvist. He had Luongo when he was with Vancouver. He had Lundqvist in New York, and they're guys who, when they came in, first of all, they either came in way later than Carter Hart did in their careers, or they worked through these issues. The perfect example is Carey Price. Carey Price from Montreal came in as a young goalie, had a really strong first season, then struggled in his second season and had to work his way up. I mean, early on in Carey Price's career, he was getting pulled out of the playoffs against the Flyers in a playoff series for Yaroslav Halak because they were trusting more in Halak at that time in his career than they were in Price. And that's just the way it goes with a young goalie. He's got to work through it. Obviously, it all worked out with Carey Price. He turned out to be this all-world goaltender. He's been doing it for years. He continues to be successful, and that's how you work toward that stage. I saw a great example the other day, actually, that Dominik Hasek, who some people consider the greatest goalie of all time, and had a unique style, all that. He wasn't an NHL starter until he was 29 years old, and then had his best seasons from 29 to 36. Now, that may be a little bit out of range for what the current NHL is. I would say the prime of a goaltender is probably at that 27 to 33 mark, but that's where you really have to get to. So for Carter Hart to be 22 and maybe 5 years away from that mark, it's just a lot of pressure that was put on him going into this year because of the fact that I think people saw the playoff series against Montreal, even the playoff series against the Islanders, because he kept you in it long enough. I mean, you got through one playoff series, you won a playoff series, and he had 2 shutouts in the process, and then he got you to a seventh game of a playoff series against a team that was really tough and challenging and limiting your offensive potential and finding ways to score on you and make these games difficult. And he found a way to keep you in the games enough anyway. So I think people thought that was going to at least repeat itself. They have a goaltender now. It's going to be the one big issue is solved, and it doesn't mean it's completely solved. He's going to go out and have off nights. It's happening too frequently right now, which is why you have to lean on a Brian Elliott when you can, but it's going to take some time, and you got to remember how young he is. I mean, this is the same conversation that Ron Hextall used to have about Sean Couturier when he was 23 and 24, and you go, he's this age, wait until he's 27 and see what he's going to be. And now you look at Sean Couturier and you go, where would this team be without Sean Couturier? Well, maybe in 3-4 years' time, it'll be where would this team be without Carter Hart, because after that much time, he's developed into the goaltender he can be. There's a lot of things you can build on when you're 22.
Kevin Durso joining us here on Sports Bash Saturday on the What Kind of Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. His preview for the Flyers Capitals game will be up later this afternoon at 97.3 ESPN.com. Kevin, the bigger reason why I wanted to have you on, aside from the Flyers playing tonight, is the return of the NHL to ESPN. First of all, I've always been fascinated with like TV right deals and how all that stuff works. I'm a geek like that. So to me, I find this so interesting. The NHL literally is doing the NBA baseball style when it comes to networks. They're going to have one network and another network. So ESPN is going to have one conference finals. Another network will have the other conference finals. Let's first start with the ESPN side. I find it very interesting that they're going to get rid of NHL TV. So go to ESPN Plus, all those streaming games. There's going to be a game of the week. They're going to have more on television content, and it's not the same. It's not apples to apples comparison, but we see the impact that going to ESPN had on the UFC. They have blown up in terms of popularity and visibility. I can only think something similar can happen for hockey here.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like this was a long time coming, honestly. And I know that the TV deals that the NHL has had in years past have been these, not just to call them extensive, but it's also, like the NBC deal was a long-term deal as well. And over time, being on one network like that and now watching where it's going as it ends kind of indicated that you needed to go back to something that, is more stable, because obviously with NBC doing away with the regional sports network, the national sports network, I should say, and only having the regionals now, it changes the game completely. Now you're talking about playoff games on USA Network, which, don't get me wrong, that's a network that's in a lot more homes than NBCSN, but nonetheless, it doesn't scream sports. I made the joke with Broads on Open Ice Hits this week that, can you imagine, coming up after the Law and Order rerun, here comes the Stanley Cup playoffs. No, what you want is following Sports Center. It's time for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup playoff.
Kevin, I need a pregame and a postgame. I need a build up and a build out.
Yeah, and not only that, but there's, like, Broads and I talked about this. There's a nostalgia to it from anybody who grew up with this game in the 90s or who loved this game throughout the 90s and all that type of stuff. And I know Gil's joke is that, hockey guys are stuck in the 90s, but whatever. That theme music starts playing and I get excited, and that theme music's coming back. We've already talked about how if they could get Gary Thorne back to do lead play-by-play, it would just be, talk about total nostalgia at that point, and it would be great, and it would be exciting to have it back, and I think it would reach to I think, first of all, it would reach a group of people. There's two groups of people I think that this would really impact. It's going to impact the casual fan who's just going to be browsing through and scrolling through the channels and finding ESPN and realizing, oh, look, there's hockey on, and they might stay and watch. And then it's also going to hit the fans who may have tuned out a little bit after the lockout in 2004, 2005, who don't know, who maybe don't realize that ESPN stopped, or maybe they do realize ESPN stopped carrying the games at that point, and it's like, well, it's not the same anymore, so I'm out, and now it's coming back, and it might bring back some of those familiar feelings. The game has changed a lot since those days, but if you can bring back some of that element to it and put some effort into it, because quite frankly, I made the joke on Open Ice Hits that the other thing about ESPN's coverage of the NHL over the last few years has been that they bring Barry Melrose out of the utility closet for 4 minutes on SportsCenter to do
Melrose Lounge.
Right, to do a segment on 10 games that night in 4 minutes, and then it's back to the next topic that led off the show to begin with, right? Now you're going to get a dedicated studio show. That's on one of the networks. It's going to be on either ABC, ESPN, or ESPN2. You're going to get games of the week. You're going to get all of that. And then bringing in the second network. I thought your conversation with PT yesterday was perfect about this, because PT brought up NASCAR as well. NASCAR used to be on like 4 networks at one different point in time, where they would split the season schedule up. And think about what that does as a business. It just brings in much more revenue, and it can help create even more exposure for people to see this game. And so bringing in a second network seems like a no-brainer at this point. And every other sport is doing it. You've got the NBA doing it. You've got Major League Baseball doing it. The NFL is on 4 different networks as well. So there you go. You need to do this. And I don't know who it's going to be. We've speculated that it could remain NBC. It could be Fox Sports in some way. It could be CBS, and I think CBS is kind of the dark horse in this, because they've got some money to spend with some things with the college game, as you've talked about, and not only that, but there's a kind of a slot for them to carry significant games in the NHL, because you think about the schedule for CBS over the year. Could be a year they have the Super Bowl in February, they go to March Madness in March, they have the Masters in April, and then boom, you're into the Stanley Cup playoffs in May and June, and that's perfect, right? You know, it just fills a gap that they have in their schedule when they're not doing NFL football, when they're not doing college basketball, that you can get to that playoff time and really carry a lot of games, especially an entire playoff series. So I'm excited for whatever it is, but most importantly, I'm just excited to know it's coming back to ESPN and bringing people that nostalgic feeling that, you know, I certainly have missed it. I got excited when I heard that theme music, like I said, and I'm ready for it to go whenever it all starts up next season.
Yeah, selfishly, I want to see CBS as well, because people might not remember this, but James Brown was the in-studio host when the NHL was on Fox. So it would be hilarious if some years later, he's now the in-studio host on CBS for the NHL as well. So selfishly, I would like to see that. But you mentioned the money thing. I want to hit on that real quick before I let you go. The money part of this is very important to me for the NHL, because they're expanding to the Kraken. So you have another team dipping into the TV pot. So this comes down to highest bidder. And, I remember what happened with the WWE when Fox is overpaid to get SmackDown on the Friday night. Like, they paid a stupid amount of money to get them over there. And because people assumed, oh, Vince McMahon is friends with the people at NBC, and he's going back to NBC, and Fox blew the NBC contract out of the water. So I'm going to assume that whoever the other network is across from ESPN, whether it is CBS, Fox, or whoever, or NBC returning, it's probably going to be a significant offer. And I got to wonder, with NBC, with all the cutbacks they're doing, Kevin, and remember, they were going to pay, what was it? It was $50 billion in cash for the Fox 21st Century Fox Studios deal, and ESPN Disney blew them out of the water with $65 billion. So back in 2018, you had $50 billion to spend. Now all of a sudden the money's gone. You're cutting budgets. So NBC may be easily outbid here.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. And like I said, one of the things that really stood out to me was you just put on, in the middle of a pandemic year, in the middle of a shortened season, no fans in the buildings at the very beginning of it anyway. It's starting to get that direction. So what was your solution to do something exciting and spectacular? Let's send 4 teams to Lake Tahoe to play outdoors and give people at home a viewership special, if you will, something that's unique, totally different from anything they've ever done. And what ended up happening? You had a weather problem on the first game that was supposed to be 3 o'clock on NBC, the national network, that got bumped back to after the first period, we can't play anymore. Game suspended. We'll start at midnight Eastern on NBCSN, the network that's going to be disappearing at the end of the year, or by the end of the year, I should say. Then the next day, for the same event, you push the game back from 3 o'clock to 7:30 and said the same thing. It's not on NBC anymore. It's going to the national sports network that's disappearing by the end of the year. That shows to me that there's not a commitment to put them in front of as many people as they can. And that's a concern for the NHL that needs to be looked at, because you would want somebody like, if ESPN had those games and said they were supposed to be on ABC, now they're going to ESPN. I don't think it's that big of a difference, because ESPN's got the same viewership level, or can get the same viewership level that ABC does in the grand scheme of things. It's a known network that's not going anywhere, and it's established. There's not every home that's got that NBCSN television network on that can sit there and say, now I'm going to watch this game, or I'm going to wait until midnight to watch, or I'm going to go and tune in at 7:30. You were trying to get them in the middle of a Sunday or in the middle of a Saturday at a time when people were going to be watching, and you pushed them to a national network that's going off the air and move the times back out of prime viewing time for a lot of people. And I don't think that that's promoting or marketing the game in any way that you would want to. So you need to go to a network that has that ability. And I certainly think ESPN does. You could say the same with Fox Sports, because if you're not on the Fox channel, FS1 is really taken off. It's going in a great direction. There's a lot of good things they have. My only concern with networks like Fox would be they have their hand in a lot of different places right now, in a lot of different sports. CBS kind of has that opening right now, and I think that that's what makes it work for them. But it will come down to money, obviously. It's going to come down to who can sweeten the deal as much as possible. ESPN certainly didn't, and let's be clear, ESPN's got the larger portion of this TV rights deal. They're going to kind of run the show. That's why they're getting the streaming end of it, I think, because they've got a platform where they can take that NHL TV and give you every game that you want, whether it's produced by them, whether it's out of market, and give it to you. And that's what gives them the bigger part of the deal. But there is going to be a hefty part of it out there for somebody, whoever wants it and whoever can bid the highest for it, that gets those other nationally televised games, that gets that other playoff series, that other conference final series. And that's what's exciting, that somebody else is going to be right in there with it. I compared it to Major League Baseball and the NFL too, where one championship game or series is on one network and you know where to go to find it every single year. That's what you're going to get with the NHL now, where you're going to get somebody who's hosting one conference final and ESPN hosting the other, and you're always going to know where to go. And that's really what the NHL needs, because it's becoming too tricky to figure out which network the game is going to be on. Is it on the National Sports Network? Is it on national is it on the NBC's national channel? Is it on NHL Network? Is it on USA Network? There's too many places to go for it. You need to get a clear-cut ESPN, ESPN2, ABC, or whatever other network comes into play, and keep it simple. And that's what people will resonate with, and it will lead to a lot of successful things.
Also, nobody wants to stream hockey games on Paramount Plus or on Peacock at this point. Nobody needs streaming on those things, because a lot of those platforms are having so many glitching problems. It's ridiculous. Yeah. He's Kevin Durso. Follow on Twitter, Kevin_Durso, for all your Flyers and NHL coverage. His preview for the Capitals Flyers game will be up this afternoon at 97.3 ESPN.com. And it's all guests that appear. The Boardwalk on the hotline. Kevin, enjoyed the conversation today. I could talk hour for you about this right stuff, but I do got to go soon because we have a game at the top of the hour to get to. So thank you for joining me anyway.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Josh Hennig here on Sports Bash Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get to your comments and thoughts on the other side as we wrap up the show. Ohio State, Michigan at the top of the hour right here on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tonight on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app with Tim Saunders and Steve Coates calling all the play-by-play action. The Flyers host the Washington Capitals. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey on the radio home of the Flyers in South Jersey, 97.3 ESPN, and listen live on the free mobile app.
On some models, excludes Corvette with GMF financing, excludes prior sales. See dealer for details. If you've been waiting for the best deal you can find on a brand new Chevy, then your wait has paid off big time. Right now, during Bennett Chevy's March Markdown event, you can save up to 25% off many of our most popular models. That's right. With Bennett Chevy's famous GM supplier employee pricing, plus you keeping all the rebates, that's up to a whopping 25% off MSRP. Plus, for a limited time, there's 0% financing available on our hottest Chevy models. Got an old beater? Get it to Bennett for an unbeatable $7,000 minimum towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. That's at least $7,000. Imagine what we'll pay for a good trade. And our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. So buying at Bennett's always a pleasure with no need to negotiate, plus there's never any sales pressure. Get to Bennett Chevy during our March Markdown event and find new roads. Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Making popcorn for movie night?
Whoa, who are you?
This is your wake-up call from TracFone Wireless. What if every time you tried a new streaming service, you had to buy a new TV?
That'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, some wireless companies do that when you switch, make you buy a new phone.
Right.
But TracFone Wireless lets you keep your phone and your number and your network, and gives you unlimited talk and text starting at $20 a month.
Seriously, who are you?
This is your wake-up call, people. TracFone Wireless. Now you're in control. Oh, you're burning it.
Oh, no.
See terms and conditions at TracFone.com.
Hey guys, are you afraid of taking off your shirt in public? Don't be embarrassed. Just say, I love Lyle back instead with male breast reduction. Many men develop a fullness in their chest as boys that persists and even worsens as they get older. This condition is called gynecomastia, and with simple liposuction, most cases can be effectively treated. Call 856-MAKEOVER today to schedule your private consultation with Dr. Lyle M. Back. That's 856-MAKEOVER, or visit ILoveLyleBack.com.
The thing about the Name Your Price tool from Progressive is that by now you've heard a lot of ads about the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. We probably don't even need the words, the Name Your Price tool, to tell you that our humpback whale pup gives you options based on your budget, or that our novelty hand buzzer helps you save on car insurance. And that's the thing about the tiny felt bag filled with marbles. At this point, you've heard a lot of ads about the elusive northern bobcat. The Name Your Price tool, the neighbor who baked you banana bread, only from Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, protecting what you love and own. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Hi, I'm Larry Styler.
And I'm Sean Styler.
We'd like to remind you that East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows is a professional business open year-round and has been serving South Jersey since 1979. It seems, however, that many of you feel sorry for us in the cold and hold off calling until spring, along with everyone else. The truth is, we and our families eat as much in the winter as we do in the summer. So call us now while prices and wait times are at their lowest and learn how great financing plans can help you. And please don't feel bad. We have Long Johns and we'll wear them. So call 646-1444 or visit us online at eastcoastroofing.com. If you'll call, we'll show up.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Want professional tax prep at a great value? Jackson Hewitt has an offer you won't want to miss. For a limited time, we'll prepare your federal taxes for as little as $48 and no more than $179. That's right. Get federal taxes done for you by skilled Jackson Hewitt tax pros in Walmart for as little as $48 and no more than $179. This offer won't last. Terms apply. Stop by Jackson Hewitt in Walmart and get your coupon code and details. That's Jackson Hewitt, conveniently located in Walmart.
A message from your neighbors and friends at First Bank. We've been serving residents and businesses of Sea Isle City and the surrounding communities for more than 130 years. Today's challenges, while unique, are another opportunity to show our strength and resilience. Our commitment to you remains strong. Whether it's using our drive-through services, bank by phone, the First Bank mobile app, or online banking, we're staying strong with you. Be safe and be secure. First Bank, here for you.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Here's Josh Hennig.
Final segment of the show, of course, Michigan, Ohio State coming up at the top of the hour right here on 97.3 ESPN. Don't forget about my friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can combine multiple props, odds, money lines in a same game parlay bet. Small payout, big result, same game parlays, point spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. You can combine them all into a same game parlay. You get a big payout. And right now, new and existing users get up to $25 back in site credit every day. Your parlay falls one leg short. The same game parlay insurance. So download the FanDuel Sportsbook app, use my promo code Hennig, and you sign up to get same game parlay insurance. If you already have FanDuel Sportsbook, you're already grandfathered in. If you're signing up for the first time, downloading the app, going to sportsbook.fanduel.com. You got to use promo code Hennig to get same-game parlay insurance. That's promo code Hennig with FanDuel Sportsbook. Must be 21 or to play. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. See full terms and conditions at sportsbook.fanduel.com. I'll give you my pick for the couple picks for the weekend in just a moment here on 97.3 ESPN. I want to get to one comment that came in on the text board earlier. Dan from EHT asked, does the injury to Embiid help or hurt his MVP chances? I personally think it hurts because missing time in a shortened season, there's a lot less room for error. There's a lot less room to slip up, make a mistake, things not go your way, etc. I think it's a big deal to keep an eye on. Okay, I'm just not a believer in. I just feel like the people who vote for these things are just so ridiculous sometimes. They're so over the top. They're so completely out of control. It's just not fair. And I think that it's something to keep an eye on because I think that missing time is definitely going to hurt his candidacy because I think these voters, they want to see sample size. And if Embiid misses 10 games in a 56-game season, that could hurt his odds. All right. FanDuel Sportsbook picks for the weekend here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll start with the UFC fights tonight. I am going with the underdog in the main event, Bilal Muhammad. This is his second time fighting this year. Leon Edwards is the favorite, but Leon Edwards hasn't fought in 600 days. Think about that. You haven't even walked in an octagon for 600 days, and you're the favorite? I'm sorry. I got to go with Bilal Muhammad at plus 215. It should be a great fight tonight. I'm also going with a little parlay for you guys. Want to jump on it? Plus 275 odds. Dan Ige, Angela Hill, Charles Jourdain, and Ronnie Yaya. Also some college basketball picks that I'm making. I'm going Oklahoma State to win tonight. I think that Texas Tech is just not as good of a team as Oklahoma State. They're going to win the Big 12 title. And I think Alabama covers the spread versus Tennessee. So there's some FanDuel Sportsbook picks for your weekend. I'm Josh Hennig. Big Ten semifinals, Ohio State, Michigan next on 97.3 ESPN.
Health update with Robin Stoloff. Learn more, live better.
Loud snoring, waking up with a dry mouth, morning headache, fatigue after a full night's sleep. If you have any of these symptoms, you may be suffering from sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is the starting and stopping of breathing during your sleep. It may cause you to wake up in the middle of the night or wake up feeling unrested. Sleep apnea may not seem like a big deal, but it can actually have serious consequences if left unchecked. There are many causes of sleep apnea, and it's often associated with excess weight. For milder cases of sleep apnea, your doctor may recommend lifestyle changes such as losing weight or quitting smoking. For more severe cases, an oral device or breathing assistance machine such as a CPAP may be recommended. Help is available, so if you think you have sleep apnea, the last thing you want to do is ignore it. I'm Robin Stoloff for Health Update.
Health update with Robin Stoloff, empowering you to live a healthier life.
Hey, sports bettors, it's Mike Gill, and I wanted to share with you how I've been cashing in on the PropSwap Sports Bets resale app. On average, sellers on PropSwap have been making 5